If I think about where we are today, Eric, we seem to be at a monetary crossroads where the President of the United States is suggesting that it's no longer a privilege but a burden to be the world's reserve currency, and gold and silver are making all-time highs. So my question to you, Eric, is in your experience, in your multi-yeared lifetime of investing in gold and silver, where are we and how important are they now and in the future in terms of the past for money?
That's a very interesting question. Demands a lot of thinking and a lot of history. I got seriously involved in gold and silver in 2000 when I was forced to look for a place to survive what I perceived would be a NASDAQ crash, which did eventuate. And in my research, it became apparent that gold was manipulated by the central banks with the aid of the commercial banks. So it's not, I think we've been through probably 50 years of manipulation of both gold and silver. We are very fortunate as gold and silver owners that the rest of the world has figured this out as well. I think firstly by the Chinese, certainly by the Indians over a long, long, long period of time. But the Chinese have become much more dominant. And of course, lately, many of the central banks have decided that gold is more important than the dollar. So I think we're in the ideal situation where the reality of what gold should represent vis-a-vis fiat currencies is obvious to most.
Eric, there's talk in the newspapers a lot recently about a squeeze in silver in particular. So it's topical that the largest silver endowment in the United States is Hycroft. Are we in a silver squeeze, and how can you tell? And what's some evidence of that?
Well, I certainly believe we are in a squeeze. Yes. What is the evidence? I mean, I hear varying comments about what the lease rate is on the LBMA for silver. I've heard 39%, 100%. You hear that most central banks now are not issuing coins any longer. There's the fact that there's a dichotomy between the CME and let's say the spot price is just shocking in a way when I look at the CME trading at 50 in terms of silver and silver trading at 52. I actually wonder what the hang is going on here. Not that I'm a believer in the CME. I'm not a believer in the CME. The CME has been a market which has been made available to people to manipulate the price of gold. And of course, I think they're still doing gold and silver. So there's lots of signs of stress. The inventory levels are almost non-existent everywhere. I often wonder to myself whether SLV has all the silver that they suggest they have. It's a bit of an open question here when you see all the shorting and naked shorting that's going on in that particular instrument. So yes, I'm a believer in the manipulation. I witnessed it for so long. It's crazy. I mean, we all know about the fines that have been paid by the various banks because they were manipulating gold and silver. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that we've ended up in a situation now where the claims on the physical by far exceed the amount of physical that's available.
And Eric, given that silver's recently gone past all-time highs and trades just above $50 an ounce today, are we at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the journey if maybe a squeeze has just begun very recently?
Well, I would think on a relative likely change in price, we're at the beginning. My view would be that if silver traded in a normal market, it would probably trade at a 15-to-1 ratio to gold, which would suggest that 3,000 should be $200. It always traded at 15-to-1 when it was a currency. It's mined at 8-to-1. It could go to 8-to-1. It could go to less than 8-to-1 because it's a necessary metal, whereas gold isn't a necessary metal that's used every day. So I think if we look at 50 today and imagine it gets to 200, and I know there's many people that have numbers even bigger than that, we're early days in this squeeze and rally.
Gotcha. And Eric, as we're here with Diane, and the subject of today's webinar is, of course, silver, but also importantly, Hycroft. I understand you've recently invested over $100 million with Diane in Hycroft. Where does that sit in the constellation of your portfolio and priorities?
Well, my view, my analytic view, even though I'm not giving analytic advice, is that when I look around the landscape of the silver equities that you can buy, where do you get the most leverage? And of course, history teaches you that a company, well, first of all, that's uh, been neglected. That's the first thing you want to find in a company that was going to give you outside performance. Two, you actually want a company that has lower than average grade because everyone kind of dismisses it. And yes, you can dismiss it at perhaps $25 silver, but you can't dismiss it at $50 silver, and you're not certainly not going to dismiss it at $200 silver. At $200 silver, Hycroft will almost make exactly the same money as any silver producer, whether your cost is 30 or 20 or 15. It's the 200 that's important. So the big winners are always the lowest grade, lowest perceived grade, what seems like the greatest risk. And I just think with the resources that they have, the 450 million ounces of MI and resources in silver, the 14 million of MI and resources in gold, you cannot find a more levered and more significant payoff than you can with Hycroft.
And Eric, I recall you famously made $1 billion on Kirkland Lake when Kirkland discovered the Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine in Victoria, Australia. And I'm thinking about the high-grade silver that Hycroft announced earlier this year, and I understand there's two drill rigs drilling now. Are there any similarities in terms of the excitement and the potential for discovery at Hycroft and other investments like Fosterville or Kirkland Lake in your experience?
Mm. Well, I would say the event that I find the same is that they were both ignored when they shouldn't have been ignored. So, for example, I think of Kirkland being ignored when obviously Fosterville kept coming out with these great results. Every drill result after another, just incredible. And the market hardly reacted to it. And the market really only reacted when it was in production and you could see what the effect of the high grade was going to be on the earnings. Right. When I look at Hycroft, I sit here and say, oh my God, the price of silver is 50 and the price of gold is 4,000. Can't people just multiply? You know, I mean, the gross value of the resource is like $80 billion or something. Gross metal value is 80 billion. And that's not considering that obviously the resource is going to grow here because of the price, because you can use a lower cutoff grade and maybe it could grow quite significantly. Two, you have higher grade intersections in the brimstone and vortex that have been announced in the last couple of years, like significantly higher than the mine grade. And three, we have a feeder zone that is sort of showing signs that it may be what manifested the huge deposit that we have here. And of course, it would have very high grade too. So you could get a combination of, imagine getting a combination of a Fosterville and a doubling of prices and a doubling of resources all in one package. So the package is likely to get a lot bigger than I'm describing it as.
And Eric, I think you've invested $100 million or so just recently and more in the past in Hycroft. Is that important in the context of your portfolio?
I guess well, I don't think it's my biggest position yet, but then again, I own, I think, 40% of this fully diluted. Okay. You can only put so much in a 600 million market cap company. Okay. And I'm doing my damnedest to get my position as large as I can make it. And I hope that when the fourth quarter study comes out on what the pre-feasibility study might suggest, that I will feel free to go out and buy more if it agrees with what I'm imagining should be happening here. And it's, it changes so fast. In fact, when I think about this discussion here, if it was yesterday, at the end of the day yesterday, I would have said, we almost had $100 in gold, which is, I think, something like 200 million increase in NAV. We had $2 in silver, which is $200 million increase in NAV. We increased the NAV by 400 million and the market cap was 600 million.
Hmm.
That's a 1 day change, one. And yet we've gone from, let's say, $30 to $50. We've had $20 in silver price change, which is $2 billion of NAV improvement. And we still trade at something like 600 million market cap, or maybe a little more than that. So I think there's plenty of upside. Maybe people want to wait for all these factors to play out. And trust me, investors, I love it when you all wait, because there are people looking, like myself and other people who invested recently.
So Diane, maybe I can ask you a question. You're here in London. Why are you here? And given that you've recently raised a whole pile of money, as well as Eric's, are there any important new shareholders? And what do they talk to you about? What do they think about Hycroft?
Yeah, so thank you, Eric, for those comments, and we do appreciate your wonderful support for us. I'm here in London doing marketing. Simon and I are doing a lot of marketing together. We have transformed our shareholder registry as a result of this offering. So Eric, of course, has increased his position, and he does own 40% of the company. But we've also brought in very key blue chip institutional investors. So it's a phenomenal registry. BlackRock out of the UK owns 10% of the company now. We brought in Franklin, Libra, and APAC are already existing shareholders, Schroders. So it's just a phenomenal registry. You'll be seeing that as we close today and update our PowerPoint presentation with the new ownership positions. But it's really quite remarkable. And this is a really monumental time for the company, because for the first time in a decade, we will be at the close of business today, eliminating all the debt on the balance sheet. And that's what a lot of investors have been waiting for, is the opportunity to come in once the balance sheet was clean and didn't feel their equity was at risk. And so now we're starting to see a lot of that activity. The financing was many times oversubscribed for, and the investors that we're meeting with here are existing shareholders through this offering, but also new shareholders who have now taken a new look at Hycroft, given that the debt is gone, that we've got, all the smart money, if you will, coming in to invest in Hycroft. So whether you know about the asset, whether you know about our management team and our history, look where the smart money is investing their money, and people are starting to follow that. So we have been, would you say, inundated, Simon, with a very, very full schedule for this whole week, and we've got more marketing requested of Hycroft in the coming weeks.
Diane, what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding or thing that people don't really get right about Hycroft, and that has maybe changed during your recent dialogue with them here in London, or any other people that you've spoken to about the company?
Well, for the reasons Eric mentioned, Hycroft has always been known as a very large world-class scale system, but it's been low grade in a very low gold and silver price environment that can be challenging on your margins. What people tend to wrongly assume, and we saw it with our predecessor company, Remarco, is that, oh, well, if the bigger companies owned it at one time, certainly they would have found anything if it was to be found. And we have now proven that misconception wrong, not once with Remarco, but twice now with Hycroft. So we have done something that truly has been a game changer and has garnered a lot of attention. Some people take a little time and patience to see it develop, as Eric was pointing out on another investment he had. And now they're starting to come to the table after a year of drill hole after drill hole after drill hole of very long intercepts, multi-thousand gram grades on silver. People are starting to pay attention and recognize that this is real. And certainly with the momentum of silver prices and gold prices, you're starting to see people more active and wanting to deploy money, and more money coming into the sector. Notwithstanding these two new very high-grade silver systems that we've discovered, we also have a significant amount of gold, but we do now trade on two silver indices, SILV and the Sol Active Silver Index. And we're getting a lot of attention from, precious metals investors, but those that are predominantly gold investors and predominantly silver. Hycroft is a very unique asset. Rarely do you find a gold deposit that has, 40% of the revenues, soon possibly to be 50% of our revenues, generated off of silver as well. That's very unusual and very unique. And the other thing is if you want to invest in silver, you tend to have to go to Mexico or Bolivia or Brazil to invest in those types of assets. And you're subject to, political risk as well. To have an asset like this in the United States, brownfields project, infrastructure on site, permitted for heap leach and milling, and a growing high-grade ore body, which has been a game changer for the industry, who's never thought that this was possible at Hycroft. It's really a culmination of a lot of very positive things happening at the company. We combine that with all of our relentless marketing and exposing Hycroft to as many investors and potential investors as we can. And we're starting to see the results of that. And of course, with Eric's lead and his investment, who is the king of silver and the quintessential precious metals investor, a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, I mean, he's well known for being early, for understanding the value that's hidden that others tend to overlook, or they wait for more assurance or surety or milestones, and they're paying attention to that and following its lead. So it's really a great time to be at Hycroft, and it's a great time for our investors, and we're starting to see more buying coming in even as we market this week here in London.
A question for both Diane and Eric. Diane, you've done this before. Remarco, you turned around a company and ultimately you got bid for by another company. What is the thing that excites you most about Hycroft, about where you are on the journey right now compared to your experience in the past?
Well, it's always fun for our team to do something that people said couldn't be done. So that's a little bit of an excitement for us. We had a conviction. This is exactly the reason that drew us to the Hycroft property. It's understanding that our predecessors never looked to see, where was the source that was the plumbing, if you will, to creating this large low-grade system. And that's what attracted us. And thanks to our head of exploration, Alex Davidson, and his entire geologic team at site, they put their head down. It took 2 years to do the work, and they were able to hit it in the first hole. So the exciting thing for us is seeing this high grade. This is a world-class scale deposit. It's one of the 10 largest in the world. But now to turn it into not only the largest in size and scale, but the largest in value and quality is very exciting. And we love making money for our shareholders. We love telling the story. And it's truly a game changer. And now that we've got this debt off of our balance sheet, we have the opportunity to re-rate this company, because we trade at a 50% discount to peers of ours who have not even a fraction of the resource we do, no infrastructure, no permits in place. And we know that the result of that discount was because of the debt on our balance sheet. But now we're free from that. And I think now we'll be able to appreciate that re-rating that we see coming. And our job is to get this share price reflective of the value of the asset, which we believe today is still significantly undervalued.
Thanks, Diane. Eric, what excites you most about Hycroft?
Well, I'm going to take a step back and tell you that, and Diane would know this, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, the last thing I was concerned about was the debt. This is a world-class deposit with a little $120 million debt. Like, it's nothing. Are you kidding me? This deposit versus a $120 million debt. And I said to Diane before this last raise took place, you could get hundreds of millions of dollars if you wanted it. And sure enough, they raised 170, but the book, I understand, might have been over 400 million for a name that theoretically nobody even knew about, like 400 million coming out of nowhere. And I've always believed that, I don't even know what the CapEx is going to be, but if we threw out a number of 2 billion, I don't know whether that's too high or not. With the resource that they have and the change in the resource that's likely to take place, that is just going to end up be a drop in the bucket. And the funny thing is, it still trades for a measly little 600 million. When I think of 600 million world-class deposit in the United States, in Nevada, right? With permits, with infrastructure. Are you kidding me? And with the outlook for silver where it is, and I got to give a little nod to Michael Oliver, who's I follow closely, and he's suggesting that silver could be like $70 before the end of the year, and much, much higher going forward. It's the much, much higher part that excites me about this, because as an investor, I'm looking for return. I don't need protection. I want to see what the upside is going to be. I'd be embarrassed to tell you what the upside would be at $200 silver. Okay. It's just some number that so flies off the paper. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me as a shareholder.
Me too.
Diane, so one thing that has always struck me as potentially explosive for Hycroft, and part of the reason that I'm wearing my blue suit with my white shirt and my red tie today in a hat tip to Mr. Trump, is that silver's recently become critical in the United States. You've got the largest pile of silver sitting in Nevada. You've got permits, you've got power, you've got water. You're surrounded by the world's biggest gold mines. Do you think that Mr. Trump and the United States might figure out that actually precious metal may or may not be in Fort Knox, but there's quite a lot here in northern Nevada at Hycroft?
Yes, and if they haven't figured out yet, it's our job to make sure they understand that. That is number one on my agenda as soon as we finish this marketing roadshow. But with silver being designated a critical mineral, and we know that the U.S. government is going to be stockpiling physical metal, and rightfully so. It serves not only a store of value currency perspective, but also an industrial metal, which is critical to so many different industries today. And the demand is, outstripping supply and has for some time. And, here in London, we were seeing the bullion traders being squeezed. They were running out of supply. We saw the long queues and lines around buildings and also out of Australia. So this momentum and this movement is far from over. I agree with Eric on that very much. We're just at the beginning of this, in my view, which is not nearly as sophisticated as Eric's, to be sure. But yes, we think we've seen the government come in and place significant positions in our mining companies and our industry for different critical and strategic minerals, and silver would be one of those. And we need to make sure they're aware of Hycroft and its potential and its size and scale as well.
So Eric and Diane, if it's okay with you, what we're going to do is now go to Ask the Apes, the most important shareholder group in the room here, what they want to know, and invite them to ask questions. So feel free to message us on the Zoom Q&A portal, and we're going to read those questions out. The one that I get most coming through Catt calls, and by the way, thank you to the Apes. I see all your memes. They're fantastic. And I agree with you. We are going to the moon, and the ignition sequence has just begun. The question that I get most, Diane, is, are you going into production soon?
We get that a lot. And my audience has heard me say it many, many times. You can create an awful lot of value even before you get into production. And I think you're already starting to see some of that momentum happening. We have a couple of opportunities on production. We have a lot of optionality now at Hycroft that wasn't available to us before this commodity price environment, and also with the recent high-grade discovery. So we've got the large project that can certainly be developed. We've got to finish the engineering studies, and then once we do that, we'll be finalizing the flow sheet and ordering equipment and then construction. So that will take several years. But we also have the high-grade underground discovery. We're going to be using some of the money that we recently raised to double that drill program. So we'll have 4 rigs there, and then we're looking at bringing on more subsequent to that, so we can develop out a very nice resource over the next year, and then do a study on that to look at getting into the high grade and mining that is a potential starter area. And the other thing too that's come up, and I get asked about this a lot, and we've referenced it in a few of our press releases, is we still have heap leach material at Hycroft. And with these higher commodity price environments, a lot more material that was previously categorized as waste is now economic and can deliver nice revenues. So there is a potential to restart the heap leach at Hycroft. We're doing that study right now. We have another rig coming just for filling in some of the gaps of that, but it's quite a substantial amount of material that's captured in our current published resource. And we're going to be looking at that. That would be a very quick startup, very minimal capital, and that would give us a nice many years of cash flow prior to the milling operation. So stay tuned for more news on that. We're finishing up our work, and we'll report back to the market. So we are as anxious to be in production and start it up as everybody else, but aren't we all glad that we weren't in a position that we started this up several years ago and left a couple of $1,000s gold and tens of $20 silvers on the table and never captured that value from our ore body. So the timing will be right, and we're doing the necessary work to make sure that it's a successful startup.
Thank you, Dan. I've got one for you, Eric. Can you please explain from your previous statement that Hycroft has the potential to be a 200 bagger? Do you see that potential or even higher?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the resource could go up a lot here. It could double just from the drilling and from the lower cutoff grade. Okay, that's not that hard to imagine because we've had a dramatic increase in prices here. If they find a feeder zone, that would be incredibly significant. If they develop the brimstone and vortex high grade, that would be significant. And these are all, because the grade is so much higher, the profitability is probably by a factor of 10 times better than what has been mined before. So there's many reasons to think that it could be a 200 bagger. And I got a compliment Don Durrett. He's a letter writer, and I like pointing out Don because he's one of the few guys who would sit there and say, this is going to be a 100 bagger. And I think that's what we need in this business, to realize what the potential for these damn things is. It's not small. You know, you want to make a difference in your economic life, you better get in precious metals here. So he's been great. I would say to your viewers that they should be listening to Michael Oliver and his MSA Momentum Structural Analysis, because there's the guy who's calling for, you know, seriously higher prices in silver, well thought out. And you gotta listen to these people and see exactly what they're saying to know exactly what the opportunity is, because the key thing as a buyer of something is what's the size of the opportunity. This is beyond anything that you could hardly ever imagine. I mean, it's just so crazily large. I hope they're as successful as they hope to be with the drilling that's going on. It's a massive property. You've been there. I've been there. There's a lot of things to think are great about this company and where it is right now.
But and Eric, you were there recently, right, at the Hycroft mine?
Yeah. Not that I'm a great guy touring mines, because I'm not a geologist, but when you look at the dimensions and size of this thing, and when you listen to the explanation for the feeder zone and the high grade silver that they've discovered at Brimstone and Vortex, it's appealing. Not that it wasn't appealing going in. You just look at the resource. I mean, who's got a resource like this? As Diana said, there's 10 guys in the world. Well, this is one of them.
Yeah.
So giddy up, go.
Diane, I have a question here. Can you explain what the feeder zone means and when are you going to be looking for it?
Certainly. Well, we have a drill hole drilling through the feeder zone now. So the feeder zone is down in the boiling area, deep in the system. What gets us excited about that is all of the high grade we've been drilling is within about 500 meters from the bottom of the pit, both in Brimstone and Vortex. What we noticed in one of the drill holes is below the epithermal vein system, about 20 meters below, we saw this mineral called argento tetrahedrite, which was massive crystals of silver. So you could stand across the room and see these crystals of silver. Finding that 20 meters below a high-grade vein is not typical in geology. That is closer to the boiling zone, which sits much deeper in the system. So something pushed that high up. That sample of core ran 80,000 grams, and we have another sample of core that ran 20,000 grams a ton. These are remarkable grades, and these are the types of things that you get deep in the system, because as these hot fluids start pushing up, the heavy metal, the heavy concentrations, the copper, lead, zinc, the gold start falling out first, and then falls out the silver above it. So it told us that we need to start looking deeper, and when we were able to get the geophysics completed on that area through the use of a very creative technology of building a heavy lift drone and flying the wires for the geophysics, we noticed a very significant magmatic source. It's all on our website. You can see it. And we've done a bit of YouTube presentations on it as well. But that's what we were looking for. And the reason we have so much confidence in that geophysics is because it also shows the high grade areas that we ourselves have been drilling. So we have the assays to back it up. We've got the drilling from last year to say, yes, that we see on the geophysics does exist because we have the data. Below that is an area that's never been drilled, and that's the throat or the neck, if you will, of this potential feeder system. We have a whole drill hole going into it right now. I'm sure we'll put several in it. And we have not yet entered that feeder zone, but we should be within another week or so. And this is an area where we're getting down to about 600 to 900 meters. And that's where we would expect to find more of that really high grade that was pushed up and appeared in one of our drill holes higher up in the system. So it's really exciting for us. The team has done a remarkable job on this, and we're excited to that drill result. And, you know, it won't just be one hole. We'll put several holes into it as well. But, you know, we've already got phenomenal high grade. I mean, tens of thousands. I mean, yeah, multi-thousand gram intercepts is bonanza grades and remarkable. But this, when you hit the feeder zone, that's the mother lode. That's what everybody's looking for. And that would be typical of having something like that at Hycroft, as we see occasionally at other mines, because that's what then creates that large system at surface.
Thank you, Diane. Another question is, what is the replacement value of all of the plant and equipment that it sits on top of the Hycroft mine today?
Well, we're very fortunate because this mine has been a heap leach operation since the 1980s, off and on by 4 different operators. And so there's a tremendous amount of infrastructure at site. If we were to build all of that, the truck shops, the labs, the 3 stages of crushing, the Merrill-Crowe processing facilities, the leach pads, it would cost us probably about $1 billion today, and it takes several years to permit all of that. So we have the permits, we have that infrastructure. It will be utilized in the next phase of operation. But because we're getting into more of the sulfide ore, we do have to build the milling component. So it'll be a milling plant. And this is typical of all of these, you know, other large systems in Nevada. They start out as low-grade heap leach operations, and then they transition to a milling operation. So this is very typical, and we're anxious to finish off this technical work, which has taken time, but it's important work, and you have to get that right to de-risk the project for when you start up. So we're very excited to be closing in on the culmination of that work by the end of the year.
What does the drill program exploration look like next year compared to this year? And are there any particular targets? And specifically a question on, will you be drilling wild rose in 2026?
Yes, so we now have a drill rig on Brimstone, one on Vortex. Thanks to all of our shareholders and Eric's lead investment, we're bringing in 2 more rigs. So we'll be drilling 2 rigs at Brimstone, 2 at Vortex. Our drill program will increase to about $30 million, or about 30,000 meters of drilling, or feet of drilling, excuse me. And so that's going to be real exciting, robust, a lot of news flow coming out. We need to get the assays back from these holes because you don't want to get ahead of the geology. Otherwise, we would be spending money and wasting shareholders' money. We need to see where we are, where the structures are, and then plan our subsequent holes accordingly. So while we're waiting on those results, we can move the rigs to Wild Rose, which sits adjacent to the east of Brimstone. You'll see in our deck that is a high priority target. A phenomenal anomaly showed up on Wild Rose. We did drill a hole last year. We got 17 grams of gold, really about a gram of gold, 17 grams of silver. We disclosed that last year. It was over a small intercept, but it's good indicators that could be a potential additional high grade system. So we'll be moving the rig there and drilling that as well. We like to say we have a target rich environment at Hycroft. And the goal is to take that whole area that we see that is open in all directions and at depth and get after it as fast as we can and drill, baby, drill, and make that a very large resource.
A question from Anonymous. Do you believe there is a high-grade gold feeder system on the property?
Well, there could be, certainly, because this is a gold and silver system. At Vortex, if you look at the last drill results, Vortex to date has been the deepest drilling. So we're down to about 530 odd meters. And we are starting to pick up, roughly 5 gram gold in some of the deeper intercepts. So when you come through the silver and you, in a typical epithermal system, then you would tend to find high-grade gold. Will we find it? Has it been offset? Is it directly sitting below? The drilling will tell, but it would not be an unusual thing to see that. What we do know with Hycroft is there's been multiple mineralizing events over the years. A lot of fluids pushed through the system. So it's not unusual for us in any given place to find areas of, a lot of gold and very little concentration of silver, a lot of concentration of silver, very little gold, some high of both gold and silver. There's been a lot of activity going through that, but therein lies the opportunity for identifying, what nobody has ever expected before. So our team has done a remarkable job figuring it out. They now know what controls the mineralization. They understand that. And they've remapped all the structures, and, the proof is in the drill results. They're just hitting it hole after hole.
When can we expect more drill results?
Well, we have 2 holes in the lab now. I will tell you that in this commodity price environment, a lot of people are drilling. So that means there's a lot of material going into labs. Turnaround time last year on our assays was about 3 weeks. We're starting to see that longer now. We're being told somewhere in the 4 to 6 weeks to get those back. So I think we're still another month or so away. But as soon as they come in, we do our QA, QC, and then we issue them into the market. The feeder hole will still be drilled for another week before we hit total depth, possibly 10 days before that's completed. Then we have to log it, prep it, and ship it off to the lab. So we should start seeing drill results coming in here, certainly before the end of the year, and hopefully within a month or 6 weeks or so.
Gotcha. And this is an important one. Eric and I care about this. What kind of drip will we have? Hat, T-shirts, cups, rounds, etc. What is your ETA for release on new merch?
New merch. I know everybody needs new merchandise. So we are going to, we'll ask our general manager who's been tasked with the next silver rounds that we're going to be minting. I love the one of the ape the other day that was posted, and asked permission that we could use that graphic. If you got some ideas, send them to us. I think we need a Sprott Hycroft coin. What do you think about that, Eric? Let's mint one of those. And maybe we'll put an ape on the other side. But we will be doing some new merch and into our online store, and maybe we need some silver hats now. What do you think?
Silver hats sound good to me. A question, what does the news story look like into next year in terms of production, exploration, technical studies, resources, etc.?
So the technical studies are slated for the end of the year. That would be we finished the pressure oxidation metallurgical work. We'll have those results out shortly. We are midway through the roasting metallurgical work. Keep in mind that both processes are amenable to the Hycroft ore. Roasting allows us to gain a third revenue stream, which would be production of sulfuric acid that we could sell into the lithium space as that is needed. And we have 5 lithium mines in Nevada. So we want to look at both of those two. And then we'll put out that technical report we'll choose one of those 2 options, put out the technical report at the end of the year. Continuous news flow over the next year to really 18 months, because we're going to keep drilling as long as we're finding this high grade. We're going to keep drilling. We'll also be assessing this underground in terms of a resource, and also what that would look like to start up as an underground mine. And see what else. So metallurgy, technical report with economics, so people can see the value of this mine. Like Eric said, nobody's really seen that recently, and I think that's going to be quite remarkable, particularly when you're looking at current commodity prices. So just a lot of news flow. This year is really the culmination of a lot of work that's gone on the last 2 years, and it's not just ending here. I mean, this is the beginning of really showcasing the hidden value that's been at Hycroft all these years, and we're just very fortunate enough to be the management team that came in and has figured it out and delivering that value to our shareholders.
Erica, is there anything that you'd like to ask Diane, or maybe any messages that you would like to send to the Apes or other shareholders?
Well, I would make a comment about somebody asking about high-grade gold, and just point out that there's an existing mine there called the Rosebud Mine right within the whole property that was high grade. So yes, we will undoubtedly find high grade. I mean, it's such a big property. I don't know whether Diane's mentioned. I think they've only explored 10% of it. It's just so prospective. It's ridiculous. We just have so many things here. Even the mention of sulfur. Can you imagine? We have all these wonderful things happening. Now we got sulfur too. I mean, and I know it's not insignificant, by the way. It's like it's going to be a serious impact on cost if they go the roaster route and they get the sulfur. So there's so many great things that nobody knows about with this company, but we'll all learn soon enough.
Yeah, we had a question from an investor at lunch in London today and said, like, okay, so if you're finding high grade silver or gold now, why did the previous operators not find it? And Eric, maybe you could comment on that, thinking about the history of Fosterville or other mines that you've been involved with as investments.
Well, things just evolve. You find things, right? I mean, even in the case of Fosterville, they were mining a low-grade ore body that kept going lower and lower in the ore body. And all of a sudden, instead of getting 3 grams, they get 6 grams. Then instead of getting 6, they get 10. Instead of getting 10, they get 15. And then they get 40s. And then they get equivalent of what Diane just said, 80,000 gram meters of silver. It just, you finally get there where you can put these holes down and find out what the true value of the ore body was. And when you think of the history of Hycroft and how did those 14 million ounces low grade get on surface? They came from somewhere down below, and it's that feeder zone that could be like incredibly interesting. So it just takes time to get there. And let's face it, when this low grade ore body was being mined and the price of silver was $10 and $15 and gold was like man, it's hard to make it come together. But at $4,000 gold and $50 silver, I mean, I don't want to make it sound too easy for Diane, but it's going to help.
Oh, we appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if we remember back in the 90s, when the Midas mine was discovered, people were drilling deep for the first time in Nevada. And, the 90s is like 2 weeks ago. That's like nothing, right? And that's when people said, oh my gosh, these large low-grade systems sitting at surface are being fed from a high-grade core. Those fluids come from deep, and they get pushed out and they get disseminated. And what you find is the low grade at surface is just the precipitation of the metals, but the metals are heavy and they drop out early. And so you just get the low grade at the surface just being carried up through some of the fluids. So is there potential, where it is? Well, we've got a team that has understood now what's controlling this mineralization. So I put my faith in them. They're very, very good. They don't need me to tell them where to drill, but I can tell you that entire team is very excited. They've all worked for the majors. They are having a great time on this property, and being part of this amazing discovery has just been remarkable for them. So now we have the runway and the cash to be able to really get after that and start looking for those things in a more aggressive way than we have been.
Erica, is there any closing comments that you'd like to make before I invite Diane to make hers on Hycroft and where you think we are in the silver and gold market today?
Sure. Well, I think the most important thing is where is the price of silver going to go?
Right.
And as I said earlier, I mean, I have no trouble imagining it going to 200. That's, 15 to 1 on a $3,000 gold price. So it really should be whatever, 260 or something based on $4,000. And I think that's the key thing, that we've had a manipulated market for whatever reason for a long time that suppressed the price of silver. You even see it now in the action. I mean, even today, we had silver down $3 in about 30 minutes, okay? 2 in the morning or something. Just sheer nonsense that happens in these markets because they try to create fear. But I think we're through that. I think silver will be like gold was when it finally broke 2,000. Immediately it went to 4,000. Silver, when it kind of broke through 35, is going to go to, I'm sure, double. And I think well beyond that to catch up to the proper ratio that it should trade at. Imagine thinking it trades 8 to 1 and it's a critical mineral. It's mined 8 to 1. and it's trading 80 to 1, and it's a critical mineral. I mean, it's not
Right.
too difficult to imagine it could go a long way from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw Evie Hambro of the BlackRock Mining Group, the largest in the world, who's recently a shareholder of Hycroft. He commented today that in general, gold shares are discounting the gold price and the silver price falling. And in fact, his view was that the surprise is that the gold price could go a lot higher, and that actually gold shares are historically cheap in terms of their earnings power today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we heard a lot of that today in some of our meetings as well. People saying, I've got to be part of this. The momentum's moving. This is the early days. People think, okay, has it gotten too big? Is it a bubble? But by and large, the sense is that this is here to stay. There's too many factors at work right now that are going to, keep pushing these commodity prices higher, is our belief. And
Simon,
Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, Simon, that we haven't even mentioned that Mike Wilson has suggested that Morgan Stanley, you should have 20% in precious metals, up from 1.
Yeah.
Well, you can't go from 1 to 20 without the prices going up, because we only produce 1% more gold a year. You have to have a price appreciation to get to 20. And then it almost necessitates a 20 times increase in price to get to 20% in gold. So that's another big factor.
Yeah,
huge factor.
Exactly. And we were talking to the Tether Gold guys who, the $200 billion US Treasury owner who've got the world's largest stable coin, and they've started a gold coin, and their anecdote is that they buy 2 tons a week of gold from the Swiss refineries, and they can't get any more of it. Them and the Chinese are competing against each other. Well, the way to get to solve that problem is put the gold price and the silver price up, and then suddenly you get more supply. But that will take some time.
Yes.
It'll take some time.
Diane, is there any closing comments you want to make, or maybe any messages to your fans and shareholders out there?
Sure. Well, I want to thank Eric for his faith and conviction in us, and his continued investment in being that lead, and all of the new shareholders that we've added to our registry. Many of you, we've known each other well. You've invested previously in our other company. So you know how we roll, and we take your investment very seriously. To all of our retail group and Apes, we love you guys. You're wonderful to us, and you've been loyal, and you were there for years ago and had confidence in what we were doing. And I know it's been a slow ride for you in terms of, the timeline to getting all of this work done. But we thank you for your patience and for your loyalty. And, I would sum it up this way. I mean, this is a story to watch. This is a new evolving story, and we believe it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get bigger. It's the right asset in the right location with the right shareholder base and the right management team, and the time is now. So we hope the rest of you will come along on this ride with us, because we're extremely excited about what it is going to become.
And I'd just like to say thank you to Eric for joining. Eric, been watching what you do all my life, and I'm taking notice that this Hycroft is as important as any of your investments, and I've joined you and the Apes on the register. Thank you to Diane for inviting me to join the club, and looking forward to the journey. My sense is that actually it's just begun. Ignition sequence has just started.
That's right. We haven't even gotten off the launch pad yet. And just so anybody knows why I'm not wearing my rocket ship pen, it's because I did let Simon borrow it, but I will be getting it back from him.
It's just a loan. You said it was just a loan.
I believe we're going to the moon also. So that's the rocket ship pen.
Thank you, Eric.
Get you one as well.
Pleasure.
We're gonna launch rocket launch. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Eric.